Hello, everyone. Welcome to the session, Exploring Immersive Media to Develop Creative and Engaging Educational Solutions, with our speaker today, Erica Hargreave, who is from the University of British Columbia. Today, this will be one session and one presentation, and to ensure that the presentation ends on time at 3, I will be monitoring the time closely, and I will be letting Erica know when time is running out. And I will have to cut her off at 3 because it is a hard stop at 3.
To 3:15.
It's at 3, and there's actually something else at 3:15.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's supposed to be a 60-minute talk. That's why I was asking.
Sorry.
That's okay. Okay, so as we get started here, I would love it. This is going to be an interactive session. So I would love it if everybody would briefly introduce themselves, where they're from, what their interest in immersive media is, and then we'll get started from there. So since you've turned on your camera, Michael, do you want to start?
I guess I volunteered myself by turning on my camera, didn't I? Yeah, thank you. I'm also at UBC, and I work at UBC Studios. So I'm a producer with working mostly in educational media, video, and other kinds of emerging media as well. So yeah, very curious to be here to witness and participate as I can.
Wonderful. And I should preface this with the fact that they got my affiliations a bit incorrect. And so I am a master's student at UBC. The institution I'm connected with is BCIT, and then the immersive storytelling I'm doing is a combination of my master's and through my own company. So, and now I see we've got, Farnaz, is that how I pronounce your name? Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, I'm a learning experience designer with Knowledge One, and I'm based in Vancouver. I'm just really curious to know about immersive media more.
Wonderful. Well, welcome. And then we've got Rosa.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Rosa Chironi. I'm the internship coordinator for the Educational Technology Program, the MA and Diploma Program at Concordia University. I apologize, I'm going to keep my camera off because there are 5 of us at home and my internet, I'm having problems with my internet, so I'll turn my camera off after this. But thank you.
It's lovely to have you here. And Yamna.
Sorry. So I am Yamna Tares. I am from Knowledge One, and I am a learning technology specialist. And I'm really curious to see your presentation and to learn more about immersive technologies and student engagement. So thank you.
Wonderful to have you here. And I just saw a note from Carol that we actually do get to go to 3:15. So hey, Carol. And then Marie.
Hi, I'm Marie Bartlett. I'm at Open Learning with Thompson Rivers University. I'm an instructional designer, and I am interested to see what kind of spaces we can start taking students in, hopefully soon. Michael, that was such an amazing presentation that you just did, and probably related. So I am just excited to be learning more.
Wonderful. And then Carol, can you introduce yourself too?
Hi, I'm Carol. I'm the session host for today's session. So I'm also really excited to be helping out with this and learning about Erica's presentation. I actually work in McGill University's organizational development team. And yes, I'm really excited to be helping out. Thank you so much, Erica.
Oh, thank you for helping out. Okay, so I'm going to be sort of sharing my slides here, but I'm going to be doing it in a not a full screen way, just because I want to be able to access things on the dashboard, and I can't when I'm in full screen. So when I say immersive media, I gather people have just come from a session with Michael. So what do you think of when you hear immersive media? What is immersive media to you?
It's a real wide spectrum these days, isn't it? It could mean a lot of different things depending on who you're talking to. And so I have all of those possibilities in my mind when I hear the term. So quite a range of possible things.
Hi, Erica. I imagine the student being part of that environment as to its maximum to experience. And I mean, in the future, wouldn't it be wonderful to have the sound and the smell and, have some tactile options? I don't know where, where to start or where to stop, but as Michael said, so many different immersive.
Anybody else have any other things they want to add to that? Nope. Okay, so yeah, as we said, it's like this increasing amount of different ways that we can kind of immersively engage within the media that we're creating. Often there's an element of going into a virtual world or placing virtual elements over our real world space. And so if I were to say virtual reality, what do people think of?
I think of anything on a headset where it's immersive and you can move around freely within the headset provided space.
Yep. Yeah. So this is we're going into a different world in this case. How about augmented reality?
There are, I would say there are elements of the real world, and then inserted in it is an alternate element.
Yeah, so this is basically, what we think of when we think of Pokemon Go and things like that, where we're getting these we often think of them as visually sort of digital overlays onto the real world, but they can be auditory or sort of through touch as well. How about mixed reality? Okay, so mixed reality is kind of where it's the newest area of sort of those immersive technologies that we're going into. And usually it allows for both real and virtual elements to interact with one another so that you can actually physically manipulate and do something. Now, Michael, just out of curiosity, would I be correct in saying that that's the direction you guys are going in with the HoloBrain?
Yeah, that would be a HoloBrain. UBC Studios isn't working directly with that. We're indirectly connected to it, but yes, that's Medicine's the Hive. That's what that'd be a good way to categorize the HoloBrain for sure.
Yeah, and so just I'll show you here for anybody who's curious what the HoloBrain is. It's a UBC project that, and I'll share a link to this in a little bit, just because we've built a little bit of a course all on an open educational course on immersive experiences. But the HoloBrain is, where are we here? It's basically you put on a headset, and when you're putting on the headset, you see in front of you a sort of a diagram of a brain in which you can kind of explore and look inside of and see the different elements of. And the last time I used it, you were able to touch pieces within that. And kind of manipulate and move it around, but it was still very early as far as those mixed reality elements. So did you guys see, was I sharing that portion of my screen? No, I wasn't, was I? Okay. Yeah, I'll show you quickly. Here it is, the sort of a rendition of the HoloBrain at UBC with these different people in the headsets. I personally find it quite difficult to use because I find that I can't really, you have to be looking in a particular direction to use, and the sensory bits of touching don't seem to really react terribly well whenever I'm using it. But it's also still early days in that form of technology. So Okay, so now I'm going to stop sharing this to go back to my slides. Oh, wrong one. So one of the things I want to do as we kind of get started here is I'm going to give everybody, I'm going to sort of put up a few different immersive experiences. And I want you to kind of go and have an experience in one or two of those. And as you go through it, I want you to think about, okay, what is the problem that this technology is solving? Why is this an AR, VR, or MR project? Would another medium be more effective in reaching this goal? Why or why not? And what are the strengths and weaknesses, so your stars and wishes for the experience? Now, as I share these, they're all ones that you can do without sort of a headset, although if you've got one around and you want to use it for some of them, you've got that option. But I'm going to put up more than we have the time to sort of explore. And that way you can sort of pick and choose what you would most like to experience. So hang on a sec here. If anybody is just going to use the Hidden Parks one, which is the first one I'm sharing here, that one you need to kind of look around for the next thing to touch on in the scene. So these will give you a few different types. One of them that I'm sharing, in its form, it's a bit more video-like, but it's actually based around, I think the term is photogrammetrics. It's the same thing they did with the Stanley Park project at UBC. Is that photogrammetrics? Is that how you, Michael, do you know?
I believe they're just calling it photogrammetry.
Oh, photogrammetry. Thank you.
Yeah.
I knew it. I knew it was somewhere along that, and I just couldn't remember quite the term for it. But the one, the archaeology one there is based around some photogrammetry that they did, and then they've built a whole installation from the that you can do in person, and then this is sort of a virtual rendition they've got on it. And then I've got one other one that I was gonna, just in case anybody prefers to use their phone. And it's the, hang on a sec here. Okay, so if everybody wants to just go and have an experience or two, and I'll just be sitting, chilling out here, and we can come back and discuss in a few minutes. So maybe take about 10 minutes for that, or?
All right, so I'm going to pause the recording now, and we'll return at 2:52.
Okay, sounds good. Is that what experience did you do, Michael?
I did all four actually briefly.
Oh, did you? Oh, good for
Yeah,
you.
so I was thinking about comparison and contrast between them.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you and how about everybody else? What did Yamna, what did you do?
Sorry, I went through the three of them, also to have an idea.
And Rosa, what did you do?
Sorry about that. I did the volcanoes one.
Yeah.
And I did the parks, and then the archaeology one.
Okay, great. And then Farnaz?
I did the cave in France and the National Museum of Computing.
Okay, and how about you, Marie?
I did all four briefly as well. Same as Mike.
Wow, you guys are fast. Great. And part of me asking just now too was to make sure we had everybody back. So as far as the different ones, is there somebody who'd like to pick one and just share what you think the technology was, or what the problem it was solving through the technology?
I could go for the museum.
Sure.
So for people who are not able to visit, or like now that it's COVID, probably there aren't any visits. So the problem would be making the museum available and accessible to people who cannot physically go there.
Yeah. And do you think do you think this was something that was effective in immersive media? Or do you like, why or why not?
More or less. I mean, it also really depends on the reason why you would go to a museum. Like a lot of people would go to the museum for the environment, for the experience, for the space also. And every museum has this different vibe. I don't think you can really capture that through virtual reality, but it was to some extent achieved, I would say. Yeah.
And what do you think the strengths and weaknesses of it were?
It is pretty detailed. I've done some, if I'm not mistaken, this is like, is it VR? Because like I have been through other tours of different places with the way that you can like click on different stuff. It is one of the good ones. It is pretty fast and they're like, you can zoom in, it's detailed. So I like that. And there are these little like circles that allow for you to explore different spots where usually they're limited, but here it was like I had a lot of options to really get close and see everything that I could think of in the space in front of me. Yep. Which can be frustrating sometimes because they don't allow for you to click on everything, but here I have like most of the options possible.
Yep. Yeah. Did anybody have any different reflections on that project?
That one, I must say, it reminds me of a real estate listing, the way that it has the floor plan and the way that you can walk through. So I was wondering if it was a similar technology that they use for that. I found it was informative. If I was going to suggest any enhancements, I would probably maybe insert that human guide or some kind of a more human voice and or maybe sound. I don't know. It was compared to the other ones, I found it a little bit less engaging because despite of it being 3D, it didn't have those other elements.
Yeah. Anybody else have any other thoughts on that?
I think that's part of what I found interesting comparing the four that you provided. That the museum was an example of you could go anywhere and do anything, which can be a benefit and can be a problem depending on who's going there and what they're trying to do and what you're trying to provide to them. Like the other one, it was interesting. Like the cave takes you through, and you have to go on that path, which, if they want you to see certain things in a row, that's necessary. Otherwise, you wouldn't know where to go to next, or they'd have to give you some other cue. But then
you can actually in the cave go in different directions, but you have to click on some of the things on the side.
Good to know. I wasn't able to figure that out, which is interesting in terms of interface, I think.
Yeah, well, it took me a while to figure that out. I was actually trying to, when I looked it up to use it as an example, I was trying to use it as an example of the geometrics.
Photogrammetry.
Photogrammetry, and but the old version of that they had up had been replaced by that, and so I was then poking things to see if I could find like that one section where I could like move kind of around the the petroglyphs that had been there before, and so as a result I did find, I'm like, oh, I can go off the path. But it's not intuitive to know that.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the benefits of the open sandbox, like at the museum, is that particularly if you're a student and you're trying to review and get certain information, you can just go back and see the same thing over and over, or just see those two things, or those two in that one. You're not dragged through the whole tour every time, is one of the benefits of that open kind of space approach. And Matterport did start with real estate, actually. It was almost exclusively real estate until 2 years ago, when
Oh, interesting.
museums started using it. So that's why it reminds you of the real estate experience. It was designed for that.
Now, did anybody see a project in there that they thought that it didn't necessarily need to be done in AR, VR, or MR, like in immersive media?
I think the dinosaur gives you a sense of scale, but I don't know that it has to be, you probably get more of a sense of scale, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I was puzzling over that one. I guess it is helpful that it's in an immersive media, but I was kind of thinking about it.
Yeah, that's the one for me that sort of, has made me ponder. I love David Attenborough, and I love the narrative, but it has made me ponder before, except for the fact that, it, as you say, it's ultimately the kind of the scale of the dinosaur that you're using the virtual reality to look at. How did people find the hidden parks, the hidden gems parks one? What are people's thoughts on that one?
If I may speak, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great way to, because you can't be there, of course, to just visit the parks. So it was really interesting and engaging.
Now, I shared that one specifically. I mean, I have a love for parks, so there's partially that side, but that one's also one that if you're working with students, that you can easily get students involved in creating things like that, where you can get them going out into different spaces and capturing and telling stories that you then tie to Google Maps or Google Earth. So while that one's kind of done on a grander scale, it's something that you can kind of do at every level. Okay, so I'm just because I'm looking at the time, I'm gonna dive into where my own journey in immersive media has been going, and why I'm sort of investigating some of these things. A couple of years ago, I was approached by a board member from Juno Beach Center, and they asked me if I could figure out some sort of storytelling piece that would help them to connect school children in Canada to World War II and the D-Day landings in Normandy at Juno Beach, because they were finding that there was beginning to be more and more of a disconnect with what happened in World War II, and that notion of why should we care kind of thing. And so as I kind of started to explore some solutions around that, I started thinking about, okay, what touched me as a kid, like as far as connecting to stories from World War II. For me, it was always the people stories. It was things like The Diary of Anne Frank and other sort of novels and storytelling pieces like that. And so I knew that sort of in going into this, I wanted to have something that was story focused. I wanted to have something that created a connection with the kids to people from the past. And I wanted to kind of look at that experience from different perceptions, rather than just the perception of that we often get of those who were victorious within the stories, and then I also wanted something that was immersive and experiential. So I kind of used a speaking trip to do a little side trip to Normandy and to Juno Beach. And one of the things I discovered when I entered the museum there is, and this picture here is from there, but it is an incredibly interactive and immersive museum and experiential museum. And so I pretty quickly realized that whatever it was that I was looking to create was not something that they needed in the museum, because there was like no shortage of ways to engage people there. But what I did realize was that all outside of that museum in Normandy, where the Canadian soldiers traveled along what they call the Maple Leaf Trails, there wasn't really, aside from like, you know, signage in some places, there wasn't ways, and like more museums, there wasn't ways that visitors could experience. And there especially wasn't ways that you could hear the story of the children that lived in Normandy at that time. And so I kind of visited along some of those Maple Leaf Trails and talked to some of the local people. And I started realizing that there was this notion of different perceptions on the war in the different areas that I visited, just in the space of Normandy alone. And so I started thinking, you know, some of that is what I wanted to capture, some of the stories of the children that would connect with our children, and some of the human stories of from Normandy. And my initial thought was doing it where you could have like sort of a GPS triggered app that took you into some storytelling from the past, where you heard, you know, you might have had sort of past footage and audio stories with photographs and things like that in there. And even maybe potentially in some places where you'd have like ghostly figures of the Canadian spies in Dieppe, that you could, you know, hear snippets of conversation or see like a mini, you know, sort of play out. And all in the background, you have current day Normandy. And my thought was that those stories could then be sort of woven into VR so that they could come back into the classrooms in Canada, where the kids could experience those stories, where when they're, you know, turned and looking one way, they're seeing these ghostly figures and hearing these historical tales of what happened in particular places in the past there. And as they turn around, they're seeing, you know, current day Normandy. But before sort of embarking down that trail, I started to do some research and look to see what else was sort of happening in that space. And one of the things that I regularly come upon is this idea, and you can't see it very well, this picture's not great for this, but where you have QR codes. And so you might have a walk where you go along and you put up your phone and QR code comes up and you get some sort of experience. And quite often they are just a repeat of what's on the current day signage in the space. So not terribly interactive. And when you've got a current day sign there, it's like, okay, why do we need it again on this device? So that was something like, this is an example of one that I saw at sort of in Switzerland. Actually, a few of the examples here from Switzerland there right after I'd left Normandy. So I was very much onto this whole thought then. Now this one uses a very similar style set of glasses to what the HoloLens uses at UBC. And it's basically this archaeological park up that anybody can walk to up on a hillside, and it's an old medieval village that they're uncovering. And they wanted to kind of rebuild the village, but they weren't given approval for finances to rebuild the village and make it kind of a living history museum. So they started to look instead into this idea of recreating it through augmented reality. And so as you walk up to this village, you've got an audio set on. It's telling you the story of a place. And when you enter the village, you then start to see some of the augmented reality sort of recreations of this village. And so I'll just play a video that introduces it to you. So just, I'm just stopping it just simply because, just totally lost it. Okay, it stopped itself. Now where are you guys? So the problem with that project right now is that even though that's what they're envisioning, the actual okay, we'll just turn off my, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
No, okay.
Erica, can you press pause on the video?
The problem is the screens disappeared that the video was on, and I'm trying to figure out where it went to.
Hold on a second.
So that's why I'm running into a problem. Is it completely? Hang on a sec. Ah, there we go. Okay. Sorry about that. Things you don't want to have happen while you're presenting something. So the problem is that the glasses that they're using in this circumstance aren't actually showing what it is that they've created. So they're just showing still frames with a little bit of movement within those still frames. None of the sort of graphics that you saw in the video there, and none of the movement or like the ability to walk through ghostly buildings or anything like that. So while the video looks really cool, it's quite disappointing when you're actually there, and it's all timed rather than being GPS sort of activated. And I asked them why they didn't, because all those videos that you saw, that's kind of like generated through gaming systems. And I asked them why they didn't go that route. And the reason why is because this is right on the border between Switzerland and Italy. And they were afraid about things bouncing off of cell towers into the wrong country. Now, I've since done the research, and there's ways of doing that with GPS sort of location, as long as people have downloaded the app before they sort of arrive on the site. It is possible to do this where you're seeing it through a phone as opposed to wearing the headset. And the headset's also really uncomfortable, especially if you're a glass wearer. So yeah, that was that experience. The next one, and I'm just going to quickly mention this one was at a Roman site. It was using QR codes, and it was supposed to take you into scenes like this and share more information on the place. It did not. It was like that cliff walk QR code thing I saw. And since, as I've been kind of investigating these different apps, usually you have either really cool graphics and next to no storytelling, or you've got you know, really poor graphics and kind of clunky technologies. And so what I kind of want to do is kind of bring together the best of both worlds. And so this right here is one project that uses this really well in augmented reality, which was the Reblink exhibit at AGO. There is a video that goes to it. Because of time, I'm not going to share it with you right now. I am going to quickly go to what it is that we're creating, and I'll just quickly show you this. Hang on a sec. And I use a natural history example here because I've realized that this is more than just what we were originally talking about in terms of a World War II history storytelling piece. So I'm going to show you quickly the natural history version that I'm
sorry, Erica, but time is up. It's already 2 minutes
yeah,
past.
I was wondering when you were going to pull the plug on me.
It's past.
Okay,
past
I'll share. I think there's a discussion underneath the thing, so I'll share a link with people to a few of the things that that we're crafting in that way.
Wanting to see the meteor crater.
And anybody who wants to talk more about this stuff and brainstorm ideas and things like that, I would love to chat. I have shared a link in the side panel to an open educational course that myself and a couple of my fellow master's students have built, all on immersive technologies, and it goes deeper into a lot of the stuff that we just touched on today. And yeah.
So thank you so much, Erica, and thank you to Lori, who worked with you on this really hard. And thank you to everyone who participated in today's session. I encourage you all to go back to the schedule page of the conference platform so you can find the next session. I'm going to stop the recording now, and we'll see you in another session. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. I'm going to close the session right now. Thank you again. Bye.